bottom. It's the first Reuven. Reuven means to see. The Koach HaRe'iyah. And that's why we learned last week that Reuven Posach b'tshuva tchila. The Reuven was the beginning of tshuva to try to save Yosef HaTzadik. Reuven Posach b'tshuva tchila, meaning that the Pesach, the beginning of a person returning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is to work on Kedushas Einayim. That's the Pesach of tshuva, the beginning of tshuva. We learned how that was the beginning of Chet in Gan Eden, that the tree was Nachmad L'Einayim. There was a Michshol in what Adam and Chava were looking at, what they saw, and they were tempted by what they saw. And the Pesach of Tshuva is Reuven, which is Kedushas Einayim, Tikkun Einayim. But what's particularly important here is the connection between Reuven and Yosef. And there's also a connection with all of that in Chanukah. I'm not going to go into the whole sugi of Chanukah now, even though this would be the right time to do it. But the Medrash says on the pasuk in Shiur Shirim, by the Medrash says Hadudoim nosnu reach. Well, psachenu, that's what it says in Shiur Shirim. Hadudoim, the cakes, the hadudoim from the Relaya, Hadudoim nosnu reach, gave a very wonderful smell. Val psachenu. And by our openings, kol megadim, all delicacies, sweet things. So, whatever that's talking about, the Mefarshim, there's a lot on it. But the Medrash says, Hadudorim nos nereach, ze Reuven shehitzil es Yosef. That's Reuven who saved Yosef HaTzadik. Val psachenu kol megadim, ze ner Chanukah. That we light by the Pesach, or that we light by the opening. And all this from talking what is going on over here. But you see this in the Indian of Chanukah, that Reuven was Matzil es Yosef. And these parashas, of course, are the parashas of Chanukah. Hadudoim nosnu reach, ze Reuven shehitzil es Yosef. Reuven, which the Koch of seeing, was the one who would save Yosef HaTzadik, whose eyes would be tested in Mitzrayim, with Aish's Potiphar. We talked about that a little bit yesterday morning. Whose eyes would be tested, and Yosef HaTzadik would succeed, and it would come to the Madrega of Ben Paras Yosef, the beauty of Yosef, Ben Paras, what? Alei Ayin. Alei Ayin, that he had beautiful eyes. Alei Ayin. Alei Ayin is Olei Ayin, that he was Oila, he reached his Madregas because of his Kedushas Einayim. But the Kedushas Einayim that Yosef had was because Reuven shehitzel es Yosef. Reuven was the one who saved Yosef HaTzadik. Reuven is the Koach HaRe'iyah, and Yosef HaTzadik is the Midah of Tzadik Yisod Olam. And the Kedusha of Yosef we see in the Torah is Ben Paras Yosef is Ben Paras Alei Ayin, which I didn't mention yesterday, the Medrash that says that Ayin, the Medrash is Ayin Shalei Ratzasa Lehenes Lozunu Lehenes Midovish She'ena Shalo, that the eye of Yosef was such an eye, Shalarat Lozunu Lehenes did not want to enjoy Dovish She'ena Shalo. Yosef's eyes refused to indulge in anything that wasn't his. That's what I was talking about yesterday. Anything that wasn't his. Shmir Seinayim, Kedusha Seinayim. To only look at what's yours, not at anybody, at anything that's not yours. Aish's Potiphar was not his. And the Kedusha of Yosef HaTzadik's eyes, to look only inward and to look only at what's his, not at what's not his. But the Hatzalah came through Reuven. Reuven saved Yosef HaTzadik. So on page Ches, I hope you have it on you should have it on your phone.
I have already seen Ches.
Huh?
I only have Reuven Zion.
I never took a picture of Ches.
Should I take a quick picture and send it?
Yeah, okay. Sorry. Should take Ches in Ches. Don't rub it in.
Don't rub it.
So on page, I don't know how fast that gets over there.
It's there.
Yeah?
There.
Okay. I forgot to mention at the beginning, again, to thank Rabbi Rahmani, the Mishpacha, the Shiur, sponsoring all the Shiur of Darchei Avinoam, the film show Simcha, Nachas, and Bracha. Reuven hu asher hitzlos Yosef HaTzadik. That's the top of page Ches. Kaidei hari'iyah megiim levatzileu miyadam. The koach of Reuven is re'iyah, is to see. And how do you save a Jew that this Jew should be a tzaddik, that he should not fall into the bar into which Yosef was thrown? How do you rescue a Jew from the pit that's filled with snakes and scorpions, all tumid? So Reuven is the koach of re'iyah, and Reuven is the one who is vatzileu miyadam. He is the one that rescues Yosef HaTzadik. In other words, there's, as we're going to see in a minute, there's a tzaddik inside each and every one of us that is in danger of falling into the pit. And Reuven pasach b'tshuva tchila, Reuven, which is kedushas einayim, has the ability to save the child, the pure child inside of us, from falling into the pit. Right? And that's the binyan over here. The connection between Yosef HaTzadik and Chanukah, which is Kedushas Hanayim. And V'al we there be like the Chanukah candles, Al P'sachenu Kol Megadim, which is Zen Ner Chanukah, because the Ner Chanukah, that are of Pnimius, that preserves the Kedusha of the home, and it guards the opening to our homes. It guards the opening to our homes. As I mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago, that the Rambam brings down in Medrash or something, the Rambam had such a Kabbalah that one of the Gzeros of the Avinoam was to tear the doors off of our homes. To tear the doors off meaning that everything's hefker, everything's wide open. Whatever's in the outside world goes into your house. And the inyan of Chanukah is to put the menorah by the opening. There's an interesting girsa in the Shiltas. Problems when I get started with Chanukah, it's Erev Chanukah. But there's a girsa in the Shiltas. The Shiltas says that Chazal themselves say that the mezuzah is miyamin, right, and the Chanukah is mismal across the mezuzah. But the Shilta says ubalabais mitzuyat says be'emtza. The balabas is standing with his talis, with his tzitzis, in between the mezuzah and the menorah. That's not found in the Gemara. But that's not found in Chazal. The Shiltas has such a thing. Rav Achai Goin has such a gersa. Also, Mistab, he saw it. He had the Rishonim had midrashim that we didn't. We don't have all the midrashim that they had. So, what's the inyan of the balabai is standing with his tzitzis in between the mezuzah and the menorah? It's also the guarding of your house, the guarding of one's house. To be a balabas, the balabai is standing. Tzitzis is the man tiskru, uri'isam, right? The inyan of tzitzis. The word tzitzis means lahatzitz. What does it mean lahatzitz? To see, to look. The inyan of tzitzis is tikkun hainayim. Tikkun hainayim is tzitzis, to see. Lahatzitz. Meitzitz means to see. Meitzitz ben harakim means to see. So you have the mezuzah miyamin. You have the Chanukah menorah is on the left side of the door of the opening, and the balabais means you have to be a balabais. You have to be a balabais. You have to be in control of what's in your house, of what's in your life. And the balabais is standing with his tzitzis in the opening of the door. That's what we're talking about. That kedusha and that shmir. So, Reuven hu asher hitzelos Yosef HaTzadik yalidei hariyah megim libayitzilei miyodam. Because only through re'iyah, only through seeing things in the right way, can we save that Yosef HaTzadik inside of us from falling into the pit. There's even in English they say pitfall, and when you say something that's very, very low, you say in the pit or pits. We used to say such a thing, a very low place. To save the koiches of Yosef HaTzadik. That's the koich, all the koiches of Yesod that a Jew has, all the koiches of a person converge, and that Nakuda of Yosef HaTzadik. The strength of Yosef HaTzadik is that everything converges. That's how Yesod. In Yesod, all the koiches, all the chushim, all of one's koiches and chushim converge in that point that's called Yesod. That's Yosef. Tzadik Yesod Olam. Tzadik Yesod Olam. Tzadik Yesod means that all of the energy of all of the different spheres and all of the different midas inside of us, they converge, they all meet in that point that's called Yosef. That's called Tzadik Yesod Olam. Tzadik Yesod Olam. All the koiches. Tzadik is the strongest person. He's a balabas. The Tzadik is the strongest person. Tzadik Yesod Olam. HaKoiches Yosef HaTzadik. That's how we save the koiches of Yosef HaTzadik. B'nai Yaakov Yosef Sela Aida Koch Shel Reuven. But Yosef needs Reuven. Reuven is the Koch HaRiyah. Aida HaKoch Shel Riyah. Reuven meya b'kol klal Yisrael. Reuven is meya, that or of Riyah, of seeing things correctly, seeing things in a proper way. That comes from Reuven, who is meya b'kol klal Yisrael, this koach of Riyah, who gives us his eyes. He's the Merkava of Kedushas Einayim. That begins with Reuven. The shleimus of it is with Yosef HaTzadik, but it was a gift from Reuven. We received that gift from Reuven. What does it mean Reuven is saving Yosef HaTzadik? Because through our eyes, through Reuven, we're able to save the tzaddik. We're able to save ourselves and to remain tzaddikim, not to chalila fall into the snakes and scorpions. Reuven omer lanu halo amarti lechem al techtu b'yeled. So Reuven came to the Shvatim, right? And Reuven says to the Shvatim, I told you, al techtu b'yeled, don't sin against the child. Okay, so Yosef wasn't a little child, right? Yosef was already, how old? 17. He was a yeshiva bacher. He wasn't a child. Al techtu b'yeled. B'yeled. Why does Reuven say al techtu b'yeled? Umavur mitzadikim schus melanim hakavan mitzadikim speak about this. Reuven mischan l'kol yachid v'yachid. That Reuven is begging each and every one of us as we start to get older. Reuven is begging each and every one of us, al techtu b'yeled. Don't sin against that pure child of who you are. Don't sin against that child. Don't let it slip away. That innocence of a child. Al techtu b'yeled. Don't sin against Yosef HaTzadik, against the midah of Tzadik. Ha'inayim. Reuven mischan l'kol yachid v'ha'inayim. The heilige reine einayim, the holy pure eyes. Hali amarti lechem al techtu b'yeled. Reuven is begging every Jew. Reuven is the einayim. And Reuven is saying, is seeing, and Reuven is saying, I'm begging you, don't look at the wrong things. Al techtu b'yeled, because if you do that, you're going to destroy the child. You're going to kill the child inside of you. You're going to kill the kid. The kids are getting killed by what they're seeing. That's pshat. The kids are being killed by what they're seeing. And Reuven is begging every single one of us, al techtu b'yeled, don't sin against the child inside of yourself, and don't sin against your kids by exposing them to things, to try our best, not to expose them to things that the Jewish eye should never see such things. Al techtu b'yeled. Yeled hu ha'inyan shel nekiyas. Yeled is reinkai. Reinkai means purity. It means nekiyas. It means clean. A yeled, a child. Haben Yaakov Ephraim im yeled sha'ashuim. Haben Yaakov Ephraim im yeled sha'ashuim. Again, the delight. The child is the delight of Ephraim is the child. Ephraim is the union of Yosef HaTzadik. Yeled sha'ashuim. Yeled sha'ashuim. Kach mevurim hariya Kodesh. Halo amarti lechem al techtu b'yeled. Don't sin against the child. Al techtu b'yeled. It's brought down as from the Yeled is the Rosh Tevis Laman Yedu Doreseichem. What mitzvah is that? Sukkah. Laman Yedu Doreseichem. Give a sukkah seshavti. Let's have the sukkah. Sukkah also means to see. Chaburah HaChodesh. Sukkah means to see. And L'man Yedu Deresechem is the Aish is the Rashlev is Yelad. And the Sukkah is also very deeply connected with Kedusha Seinai, to only see, to the Schach, to see only the Shechina. Is the aim. The mother is protecting the child. That's the meaning of the Sukkah, which means that even when you go outside of your house, you should remain protected and covered, even outside your house. That we're davening that our children, that our children, that our generations should remain pure. And they should know HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the meaning of the Sukkah is to protect them when they're not in their homes. That's the Kedusha of the Sukkah. But it also means a lashon of seeing, Seicha. Sari Menu's Yiska. That everybody Seicha B'Yafi, that everybody would look at the beauty of Sari Menu. Means her name was Yiska. Yiska. That's the English name is Jessica. That comes from Yiska. That's the name comes from. But Yiska is a lashon of seeing. Al Techto B'Yelad. Amarti Lachem. Tishmu Al Heinai. Reuven saying to all the Shvatim and to every single Jew, I told you, if you want to remain pure, then Tishmu Al Heinayim. You have to guard your eyes. You have to look at things with my koch. There's the koch of Reuven, the Re'iyah. Shaheinayim Tiyena Nekiyas. That the eyes should be clean. Memela Hayelet Shashum Yeshar Sharlim. And if the eyes are clean, then the child that you delighted with when he was little, that child will remain a tzaddik. A tahara tishoya b'shleimus, then the tahara can remain pure. A person can't look at whatever he wants to look at and expect to remain pure. We can't allow our children to look at whatever they want to look at and to think that they're going to remain pure. I told you a few years ago, there was this heartbreaking conversation I had with a very choshev woman who was approximately my age, because we were at that time in the mountains, and we were staying in a place that was mostly Balvatim. They were around the same age as me. We were met. And very, very choshev person from a very choshev family of Talmidei Chachamim. She was a descendant of the Yid Kodesh, I remember. And she was once she wanted to talk to me, and she began to cry in the conversation, and she said that she was raised very, very, very from home. She was raised in Brooklyn, very strong family, very from home, and that she had these two friends that her parents didn't approve of. She was with all the right girls, but she had these two that, there's always those one or two, right? So there were these two that my parents, she wasn't allowed to go to the movies. And but these two friends convinced her, and she once snuck. Her parents, she never told her parents, and she went to the movies. And she said that she saw something in the movie. This must have been in the 1970s, I guess. Whatever. She saw something in the movie that was ma'us, something that was not nice. And she was crying. She said that to this day, which at that time I guess she was probably late 40s when she told this to me, 50. She said, to this day, I can't shake that from my head. She said, I ran out of the theater. Which is a very pure person. She said, I ran out of the theater and never went back. And she said, I left those friends. I mean, this is the best she could do. I mean, she did everything. She went to the movie. Her friends brought it, and she went. And she said, and all of these years, sometimes like when my best davening, I'm standing like in the Maris Machpelah or Kever Rochel or something, and it's like my strongest davening, and I'm crying out to Hashem from the depths of my heart. All of a sudden, beep, that scene. She said, the whole thing was, I was there for 10 seconds, and I ran out from the movie. Vayanos v'yetze. I ran out from the movie, and she says, and just looked me on a cup. I can't, it's still there. She said, and she wanted to ask me, how do you get rid of that? she was just saying something in a very honest way, that everybody struggles with such a thing. So, how does that work like nowadays? This is, and I don't even know how bad that was, but I didn't ask her what she saw. I don't want to talk about it. But what do you think? She didn't go to some X-rated place with her friends. She didn't go to such a thing. Stammer was something that nowadays, the kids nowadays, they would be bored. They wouldn't even look at it. This is nothing. So what are the re'iyas that are in the head? And how is a person supposed to taste how is a person supposed to smell the slightest bit of hadudoim nosnu reach? Like Chazal say that the young men in Yerushalayim, they had a wonderful smell. This was the smell of tahara. And how is a person supposed to have a shmek of tahara if the eyes have become so impure? So this is what Reuven's crying about. Reuven's saying, I'm the kocher, I'm begging you, I'll techtu b'yeled, because this kid's going to regret it the rest of his life. Don't sin against the child. And for each of us, meaning don't sin against that child inside of you. Because even when you're 30, 40, 50, 67 years old, and you press a bad button over there on the phone, and you're looking at something you shouldn't look at, you're on the street and you're looking at something you shouldn't look at, it's a chait against that yeled inside of us. It's just another knife in the heart of that child that's inside of us, that's longing to have some of that purity of when he was before the movie, before he went to the movie.
Can you tell us what you told her is, what the answer was?
It's nothing that I haven't already told you a million times, so I'm not going to go over it now. But I tried to give a chizuk and to concentrate on the asay tov, and that she still has the koch, the same way that she ran out of that movie, she could run out from that thought, and that's a huge avodah in Hashem's eyes. When you do that, so Hashem gives you that sign over and over again. You shouldn't think that you're a bad person, because she says, "What kind of a low person I am?" I still think of that. I said, Chas v'shalom. But Yosef HaTzadik was a low person. Yosef HaTzadik was a low person. Hashem sends you in the sign. Your job is the same way you ran out of the movie then. You got to run out of the movie now. And then you were Yosef HaTzadik, or you're tzadekis when you ran out of the movie. You were tzadekis when you ran out of the movie then, and you're tzadekis when you ran out of the movie now. And it's the same thing with us. When you run out of the movie, you're a tzaddik. And so why did you have that rerun come back? Now look, if you're looking at reruns, they come back to you. Obviously. You can't cry that about them having such terrible thoughts if you're looking at terrible things. What are you crying that you have terrible thoughts? The problem is she doesn't look at this lady who's at tzedekah. She doesn't looking at anything bad, and she still has this thing. And she has this thing by the craziest. She says like by the holiest times and places. It comes into my head like Shmoneh Esrei. You think of things. I had this thought. I have these thoughts. She said that's the Indian of Yosef HaTzadik, and these are the nisyanis that we have. And not to cry or to cracks about why did this happen to me? How could this happen to me? I must be such a low person. All of those are diburim that come mamish from the snake, that come from the sitracha, because all those diburim are telling you to keep on looking. That's what all those diburim are saying. Keep on looking. A low person like you, this is rated for you. It's not rated G or PG or R or X. It's rated for you. This movie was made for you. Because this movie is made for low people. And you're a low person. So that's a terrible machshava, and that's why I was talking to her about that. That's not the machshava, that you're a bad person. That's why you're thinking that. No. Hashem tested Yosef HaTzadik, and you're being tested, and you did a tremendous thing when you were young, that you was vayanas v'yitzek, and because of that you have wonderful children, and you have beautiful family, and you've accomplished so many things in your life, and you have to keep on doing that. Your whole life, you're not potter. Vayanas v'yitzek is not. In the Chumash, it sounds good, because Yosef HaTzadik just did it one time, it sounds like after that, everything was good after that. We don't know what Yosef's nisyanis were. It's what we have in Chumash. But and by us though, it's more than one pasuk vayanas v'yitzek. So even if you had a good day in this vayanas v'yitzek, then the next day it's pasuk beis, and it's again another Aish Potiphar. By Yosef HaTzadik, it sounds like it was one time he had this ma'is with Aish Potiphar, and then afterwards he was potter. I says v'yidaber love yom yom. We just learned it yesterday. V'yidaber love yom yom, that she came after him every day, and as we spoke about a few weeks ago, even in jail. Even when she would come after him. Yadaber love yom yom. So it says in Pasuk, "V'hikadaber love yom yom." This farm tells it means that Yosef HaTzadik, it wasn't only an Indian that he had once in his life, and it wasn't only Aish's Potiphar. There's a Metzias in this world. V'hikadaber love yom yom, yom yom. That voice comes yom yom, or the pictures come back yom yom. When it says by Yosef, "V'hikadaber love yom yom," it means about each and every one of us. That the nisyanis of this world are in a way of v'hikadaber love yom yom. It's not one pasuk. It's psukim and trokim and parashas of a person's life that he has to deal with these things. And the avoda is that when she came, v'hikadaber love yom yom, that Yosef HaTzadik was misgab. And that's why he's Yosef HaTzadik. And really that's why our generation, our time, we have this deep connection to Yosef HaTzadik because of the repetition, because of the reruns and the replays, because of how many reruns there are. And by Yosef HaTzadik, he was the first one where the Torah tells us there were reruns, because it says, "V'hikadaber love yom yom." That's what the rerun is, no? It means when the movie plays over in your head, or when you saw something you shouldn't have looked at, and it comes back over and over again. That's what it says, "V'hikadaber love yom yom." Yom yom. So the Kortim Misgabra on that rerun that keeps on playing back to you, even though you ran away from it, and you're done with it, and you feel, I must speak, I'm already done with this, I don't have any shaykhs, I'm already a grown person, I don't want to, V'hikadaber love yom yom. And the Kortim Misgabra, not just on one time, it's V'hikadaber love yom yom. That's the Koch of Yosef HaTzadik, whose name itself means Atesefes. It means more and more and more avodas. The need of Chanukah, which is Moshe Weinberger, that the candles get stronger and stronger and more light. And Zelum Hazeh means with every single light, there's more darkness that's fighting against that light. It's all avodah. V'hikadaber love yom yom. We don't light one Chanukah candle. It's v'hikadaber love yom yom. Because every single day of life, you need more aura to be able to overcome the narishkeit and the tumah of this day. So you have to be Moshe Weinberger, which is Yosef HaTzadik. We pass like Beis Hillel, and Hillel means is a lashon of or. That's a lashon of or. Hillel means or, it means light, praise, but it means hilo, means or, like a halo, means light. And there's to be Moshe more and more light. That's the only way to fight against it. Just with the Tesefes are, because there's more and more chayshachs. You have to fight with more or. V'hikadaber love yom yom. V'amar HaKosov back inside. V'Hashem berach es Avram bakol. So it says that Kosh Baruch Hu benched Avram bakol. Umuvu mehabeis Avram. And it's brought down from the Shlomo. Me'od tzadikim, other tzadikim. Ki bakol. Hashem berach es Avram bakol. Rashi Tevis bris karati le'enai. Bris karati le'enai. That's a pasuk in Yov. I wrote the English there on this side. I made a covenant for my eyes. This is an interesting pasuk. Bris karati le'enai. He doesn't bring the end of the pasuk. The end of the pasuk is Uma es boinen al besula, which means I made a covenant for my eyes not to look at the besula, at the girl. I made a covenant with my eyes. Bris karati le'enai. So if your kid tells you he wants to go and take karate lessons, you can say, sure, you can take karate lessons. It says in the pasuk, Bris karati le'enai. That's Jewish karate. I know they have, even when I was growing up, they had Jewish karate. They started with that then. They started that a long time ago, Jewish karate. But this is the original Jewish karate. Bris karati, it's not with a saf, it's with a bris karati le'enai. I made a bris with my eyes. Karati le'enai. I made a bris with my eyes. Not to look at the wrong thing. That's the pasuk says. Not to look at the psula. Bris karati le'enai. Umaz boinin al besula. V'zahu inyin shel hakol. So when it says Hashem berach es Avram bakol, that Avram Avinu had everything. So Tzimei is saying, I mean, this the Beis Avram is saying, the Shalom is saying that bakol, when does a person have everything? When he's in control. When he's in control of his eyes. Bis karati la'enai, when a person's in control of his eyes. So that's the bracha of Hashem berach es Avram bakol. Then a person has that koach of being in control. That's called bakol. Beis Chaf Lamed Bris Karati L'Einai. Zeinin Shakal. Chumavur b'Chazal Akadoshim Shem Shoymim Al Heinaim, because the Heinaim is the Pesach, is the opening. Shem Shoymim Al Heinaim as Kuloi Shamur. If you're able to guard that opening, just like the opening of the house, the eyes, which are the opening, to guard that opening, the eyes. So if a person is able to guard his eyes, then he's guarded. Kuloi Shamur. Then he'll be careful. He'll be able to be careful of what he says and what he listens to. The tchila is re'iyah, is what you see. That's what catches you first. That's what Avodah Mechav. Re'iyah is the first thing. It's the most powerful. It's the most powerful. Even though shmiya, you could hear something from further away, but it's faint. But re'iyah is something which is in front of your eyes. You see it in front of your eyes. Listening, which is shimon, that's the koch of shimon, the shmora. But that's already, you could hear something even if it's farther away. But it's not a strong an impact. Seeing something makes the strongest impact. When you see something, a person, it's much easier to forget something that you heard, but you didn't see. But when you saw something with your eyes, it's very, very hard to move on from seeing something. So Reuven's job is to save Yosef HaTzadik. And where do we see the koch of Yosef HaTzadik in the eyes? I mentioned before, Ben Parnes Yosef, Ben Parnes Alei Ayin. So it says in Pasuk, V'Yosef Yoshis Yodo Alei Necha. So before Yaakov was afraid to go down to Mitzrayim. We're now in these parashas. Yaakov was afraid to go down to Mitzrayim, and Akash Baruch Hu reassures him that Anochi Eridim Chamitzrayim, V'Anochi Elcha Gamaloi. I'm going to go down with you to Mitzrayim, and I'm going to go up with you out from Mitzrayim. Of course, it doesn't mean Yaakov himself wouldn't come out, but he'll come out to be buried. But it means that all the Shvatim, Am Yisrael will be taken out of Mitzrayim. I'll go down with you and I'll take you out. And then it's an interesting thing. Then it says, V'Yosef Yoshis Yodov Alei Necha. It's one of the great mysterious psukim in all of Chumash. Yosef will place his hands on your eyes. That's Hashem says. In other words, Hashem says to Yaakov. Yaakov is the father of all of Am Yisrael. Hashem says to Yaakov, you're going to go down to Mitzrayim, but you're going to survive in Mitzrayim, and you're going to get out. You know why? Because Yosef is going to put his hands and cover your eyes. Yosef Yoshis Yodov Alei Necha. Okay, so it's brought down in the Svarim and in Halachas Svarim as well that there's a son that is standing next to his father. When his father at 120 passes away, that the child and the eyes are open, the child should put his hand on and to close the father's eyes. Say that. But what does it mean? What does it mean in Pnimius that Yosef will place his hand upon your eyes? And that, remember, Hashem Yisbarach is telling that to Yaakov Avinu to give him chizik, because Yaakov is about to go down to Mitzrayim. There's a bad place. It's a bad place, Mitzrayim. And Yaakov is not happy about this gzeira that they have to go down to Mitzrayim. He's not happy about this. And Yaakov is very worried about how are Jews going to survive in Mitzrayim. And the only answer is that Yosef HaTzadik puts his hands and covers the eyes. You understand what that means? It's a very deep thing. Yaakov was very afraid to go down to Mitzrayim. When the Shvatim went down to Mitzrayim, we were all there. All of our neshamas were there. We went down. The Shivim Nefesh is all of us. We all went down to Mitzrayim. We all went down to Mitzrayim. Of course, Mitzrayim is the headquarters of Tumah, of Gilei Rayis, of the worst Tumah. Paro, Pera, Ra Be'enei Hashem. Paro was Pera, Ra Be'enei Hashem. Mitzrayim is every bad thing in the world is Mitzrayim. When they said Pachad Yaakov Avinu, and because of this, Yaakov Avinu was afraid. Hashem Amalei Al Tira Be'ador Mitzrayim, but don't be afraid. Anochi Eyemcha v'Yosef Yoshes Yodo Alinecha. And he was saying, he must have said the pasuk by heart, but the pasuk I wrote next to it, it says, Anochi Eridim Chamitzrayim v'Anochi Alcha Gam Aloi. And then it says, V'Yosef Yoshes Yodo Alinecha. That's the correct pasuk. Anochi, it doesn't say Anochi Eyemcha, it says over there, Anochi Alcha Eridim Cha, and Anochi Alcha Gam Aloi. That's what the pasuk says. And then it says, V'Yosef Yoshes Yodo Alinecha. Yosef is going to put his hand on your eyes. Either Yosef HaTzadik Yikablu HaKoach. The deeper meaning of this is that is through the midah of Yosef HaTzadik, which is Tzadik Yisod Olam, which we understand that Yosef took over the Bechorah from Reuven because of what happened with Reuven. Reuven is a koach of seeing, but now this koach of seeing becomes really manifested in Yosef. Really, Yosef was all of the midas, because that's the midah of Yesod. And Yosef is taking all of these koiches of Reuven and Shimon and Levi and so on, and ubefrat, the inyan of Kedusha Sa'inayim, which is Reuven, because Yosef took over really that inyan of the Bechorah. And from Yosef HaTzadik, Jews in Mitzrayim are going to be Yichablu HaKoach, Yodo Perish Kocho, Yad means Koach, Masata Giburim, Masata Giburim Biyad Chalosh. Biyad always means Bekoach. Yodo HaChazaka, Yodo Perish Kocho, Shel Yehudim Tiyana Einayim Nekiyas. Yosef Yoshes Yodo Alinecha, the promise that Hashem made to Yaakov that Yosef will put his hand on your eyes, means that through Yosef, Jews will have the ability to close their eyes to things that are not pure, to things that Jews shouldn't see. Yosef is the one who gives Yaakov the ability to have his eyes closed, to close his eyes while being in Mitzrayim. And all Jews can be in Mitzrayim and not look at things that they shouldn't look at. That koach comes to us from Yosef HaTzadik, through Reuven, who saved Yosef HaTzadik. We have the koach. We have the koach of keeping her eyes focused and not looking at things we shouldn't look at. Shall Yehudim Tiyana Einayim Nekiyas. Chazal HaKadoshim Harei Hefligu Ma'od. Binyin HaEinayim Shel Yosef HaTzadik. Chazal talk a lot about the eyes of Yosef HaTzadik. Ein Lanu Hasog B'zeh, which we can't be masig. We can't be masig in the eyes of Yosef HaTzadik, but the Kedushas Einayim of Yosef HaTzadik. Aval Einayim HaKadoshis of Yosef HaTzadik, but we do know that the holy and pure eyes of Yosef HaTzadik is the Shmira, Shamar Aleim B'Mesirus Nefesh Etien Nekiyus Legamre. That through Yosef HaTzadik's Shmiras Einayim and Taharas Einayim, he made it possible. Doesn't mean that we're always successful. We have to want it, barely now. Meaning for somebody that's not Jewish, it doesn't sound nice, but it's impossible. It's not possible, it's impossible. And that's why the Maisa when the Paris came to the Rabbi Baruch Mezhbus, came to the Baal Shem Tov Kodesh. And his grandson, Rabbi Baruch, was standing next to him. And you remember the story, right? The Paris came to the Baal Shem Tov, and he was sick, and the Baal Shem Tov told him that, you have, your life is a hefker, and you're doing all kinds of disgusting things. The Baal Shem Tov told him, and you're dying from the disease, you're dying from it because of what you're doing. So the Paritz, the guy, said to the Baal Shem Tov, he says, Rabbi, you're able to stay away from these things. He asked the Baal Shem Tov, the guy. So the Baal Shem Tov, you remember what he answered? What?
I'm old.
Yeah, the Baal Shem Tov said, "I'm an alter mensch. I'm an old man." So he said. And the Paritz walked out. Yes, the Baal Shem Tov again. We gave him a bracha or something. He walked out. So Baruch Mezhbus, the grandson, was very upset about that. He couldn't believe that he said such a thing. He said, and Baruch Mezhbus asked his grandfather, "What do you mean you're an old man?" He says, I know you're Kodesh V'tar. Kodesh V'tar. So the Baal Shem Tov, what did the Baal Shem Tov say to him? I'm going to say that to a guy. The guy's not going to understand what I'm talking about. And when the Rebbe Baruch Moshe said over the mice, he said the emes is, a Jew also doesn't understand how this works. We also don't understand. We have this koach, we just don't know how it's possible. A guy doesn't have this. The Baal Shem said, I can't explain it to the parents. I'm going to explain to a parents what it means Shmir Seinai. To explain to a parents Shmir Seinai. But the Baruch Moshe said the truth is that we also don't understand. We just have this. There's such an Indian that a Jew has. This koach of Yosef HaTzadik. It's not something which is seichel. It's something that somehow the Reuven who saved Yosef HaTzadik, and Yosef HaTzadik is saving us, that he gave us such a koach that a Jew has the ability in Mitzrayim to keep his eyes in the right place. A Jew has such an ability. It's something that you can't explain it. Not only to pirates, but you can't explain it to yourself how a person has such a koach. But we do have such a koach, and not only that, but it's the Pesach of Tshuva. There's the next piece we'll continue next week. But I saw there was on this pasuk. I looked into the pasuk Yosef Yoshes Yada Al Einecha. And I saw such a beautiful pshat in the Ksava Kabbalah. It really doesn't have to do what we're talking about it, but it would be chaval to share with you because it was just agav. I saw this in the Ksava Kabbalah. That he said that when it says Yosef Yoshes Yada Alinecha, so Hashem was telling Ya'akov, it's going to be very, very hard in Mitzrayim, and it's going to be very, very. It's a bad place. It's a terrible place. But you're going to have such nachas, such shashum from being back together with Yosef, that you were apart from all of these years, that even though Mitzrayim is a terrible place, but you're not going to pay attention to all the horrors of Mitzrayim because you're going to be so excited about being together with the children. You'll have such nachas from your kids. They'll take your mind off of the disgusting stuff that's going around. It's also an Indian. That's it. If you look and see the Ksava Kabbalah's language is very, very beautiful, the way he wrote it. That you'll have such a pleasure from your son. So it says Yosef Yoshes that Yosef will cover your eyes. Meaning the joy that you have from your kids is so strong that it will cover your eyes. You won't need to look at other things. You'll have such nachas in your own house that your eye is not going to have to go anyplace else. It's a beautiful Torah. It's kedai if you have the Ksava Kabbalah. We have it. You have it. It's kedai to take a look inside the Ksava Kabbalah. Okay. Shall we continue Chanukah? We shall have in Chanukah. There's an early mincha, 12:15. A regular mincha is when? Remember 4:15.